Jetsons the movie. I remember back as a kid when I used to always watch Hanna-Barbera shows, both old and new. One of the shows I would usually watch is the Jetsons, and to be honest, it wasn't really my favorite of the bunch. Don't get me wrong though, it's a good show and I do enjoy it, but even as a kid, I feel like it gets a bit repetitive at times, and it sometimes feels like it's trying to capture the success of the Flintstones. In other words, the Jetsons were to the Flintstones like how Family Guy is to The Simpsons today. But since they made it big enough to have their own movie, is this movie really ahead of its time like the family themselves? Or will it just make us want to stop this crazy thing? Well, I did remember talking about this movie with my friend Morgan, and
why, AniMat? Why didn't you include this on your top 10 worst films based on a cartoon list?
Hey, whoa, I forgot about it, okay? I didn't know it would be that bad. I mean, you can't really judge a guy just because he forgot a movie like that on his list, you know? You can't judge me like that, right? Don't judge me!
oh yeah. This is gonna suck, ain't it? Well, let's find out. The story. Now, for those of you who have watched the Jetsons, stop me if you've heard this one. The main story of the film is that George gets a major promotion as the vice president of Mr. Spacely's new power plant, while his whole family is learning to adapt to their new home that they just moved to. Now, I'm sure a lot of you reacted when I said promotion. You see, this is one of those repetitiveness that I was talking about before. Hanna-Barbera used this formula so many times before, and it's no different in here. George gets a promotion, crazy mishaps ensues, Mr. Spacely rages, then George is back to his old job. But it's not really that plot element that's the big problem in this. I get that this would be used for traditional purposes. The problem is the main plot itself, where the family has to move because of George's new job and begin their new life there. This is the kind of plot that you would commonly find in an episode of any sitcom. In fact, this sounds like something the Jetsons would do in an episode. But since it's used in a movie, not only is this predictable, but it feels like it drags on by adding so many useless things. They can be ranged from side plots about Judy and Elroy that go completely nowhere and just fill in those 80 minutes, a series of jokes where a few are actually good, but most of them are very stale, and the worst of the bunch, the movie trying to be hip for the young cool kids, yo! One of these hip things they do is that they put in some late 80s pop music, and although this isn't a musical, the movie stops to take acknowledgement to these songs. Now, by themselves, they are actually pretty good, rather as just audio or as a music video, but they just feel completely out of place and doesn't tie in well to the movie itself. I mean, if I show you just this, would you think this is a clip from Jetsons the movie? Oh, and did I forget to mention that this film has a surprise environmental message? A really obvious, in-your-face, out-of-place, dumbed-down, painful environmental message? Spoiler alert, that's how they end this off. I know I've been talking a lot here, but all this is to say that by feeling long, unoriginal, failing to be cool, and painful with their message, the story is nothing more than an embarrassing joke. The animation. I think we can all agree that Hanna-Barbera is not well known for its, animation quality. However, for a cartoon series that jumped to the big screen, it did pull a nice upgrade. It still keeps the show's original design with the characters having that Hanna-Barbera style look to them, while also expanding the world of the Jetsons with its over-the-top predictions of the future and its technology. What they did for the upgrades can be found more in the characters themselves. The animators give the characters some shading around them, giving them more depth, and they move much more fluently than they ever can in the show. I'm not saying that they improved it very well though, their movements still have a bit of a rubbery feeling to it, and it's not as greatly animated as the others at the time like Disney or Don Bluth. It's a little bit in the middle with its quality. Not as good as the Masters, but still a better job than what you'd find on TV. Another upgrade the animation did for this is the addition of computer animation. Now, having these two mediums at the same time can be very hard to make it look like they're both part of the same world. And in here, it somehow fits well. They only use it for shots where you look at the scenery, and considering that most of the show's architecture is formed of more simple shapes and rings, they look believable as places where the Jetsons would be. Again, not the best animation for its time, but for something that came out of a Hanna-Barbera show, it's pretty solid. The characters. I don't think even the most devoted Jetsons fan would like what they did to these classic characters, because there really isn't much good things to say about them. With the main character, George, he's just portrayed as this goofball who's so full of himself because of the new vice president job he randomly got. There's not a lot of charm in him as much as in the show, and anyone who doesn't know about the show would probably see him as a lazy, selfish idiot, considering how his job is just to push a button. That's it. Oh boy, that's pretty tough, George. Do we need to hire you an assistant for some help? As for the rest, they can each be categorized in a simple section, and some of them are not good to be in. There are the ones like Elroy and Rudy 2 that try to advance the plot, but expressing nothing to show why we should care about them. The ones like Mr. Spacely and Rosie that actually do have charm to their character and bring a tiny bit of the spirit of the show. And the rest are just throwaways. The ones who are in the movie, but have no point whatsoever. But then there's Judy Jetson. She was supposed to be voiced by her original voice actress, Janet Waldo, but they decided to change her at the last minute by then pop star Tiffany, as a way to make this movie more cool to the kids, homie. Now, with that said, Judy is freaking intolerable in this. All she does is whine and complain about her stupid love for Cosmic Cosmo and spew out agonizing space puns, all in an annoying and terrible performance by Tiffany herself. And that's another thing I want to mention. The performance from some of the actors aren't really that good here. Now, I know that's bad to say, since many of the original voices did come back to reprise their roles. That, and this is the last performance that we would hear from George O'Hanlon and the great Mel Blanc, and voice actor Jeff Bergman had to step in to fill in their roles after their deaths. But here's the thing. The movie was made 30 years ago after the original show, and you can hear that some of them are a little rusty, and their voices weren't as strong as they used to be. I mean, some of them were near death's door while they were recording this. As a result, we're just left with some empty characters with no purpose, no depth, nor likability for that matter. Wow, Morgan was right. Why didn't I put this on my top 10 worst films based on a cartoon? Jetsons the movie feels like it was actually run by Mr. Spacely himself, in a way that it was created just to make a quick buck, where even if the animation is decent, the writing is just dreadful, and even the voice actors weren't giving their all, making something that's just overall heartless. It just makes it even more confusing to think that how can this actually be directed by Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera themselves? Even if you are a major Hanna-Barbera fan or a fan of the show, I wouldn't really recommend seeing this. There won't be as much charm as you would find in the show. And I do feel kind of bad that because of this, I have to give the Jetsons the AniMat's seal of garbage. Now, maybe I'll just go out and relax and maybe wait a minute. An idiotic main character who just got a dream job, and he brought his gang to move to a new place where his new job is located. His job is to do a simple thing on a big machine that suddenly went haywire and has to figure out what's wrong. It turns out that there's an entire civilization around the machine, and the boss has intentions to put his profit first before the life that lived there, which follows a pointless yet painful environmental message. The problems with this film include terrible writing where they recycled plot elements from the previous work while being predictable, have horrendous puns, and many of the characters are pointless and in some cases annoying. Why is this familiar? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god! Now, on second thought, the animation on the Jetsons movie is actually decent and watchable, so maybe they're not all that similar. Hey guys, this is AniMat. Now, it's funny to mention that this is actually the first ever classic review that I've ever done in which I have to give an animated film the AniMat seal of garbage. The other ones that I've done that doesn't get a great score, they're just meh. I wouldn't say that they're great films, but I'm not gonna say that they're bad, you know, like Care Bears movie or Bionicle, you know? They're just like in between, they're just meh. Oh, and another thing I want to mention, don't forget to check out some of Morgan's reviews on his show Vaulting, in which you can find on Mr. Coat. They're actually pretty good. But now that that is over, it's time to move on to the next review, In the Animation Hat. And by the way, if you guys have an animated film you would like to suggest to me and put on the animation hat, then write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. Alright, so let's get to it. Oh, I had it. Oh. Maybe if I... No, I think I felt one falling down. Come on. Alright, come on. Alright. You know, some of you could say that I could just easily pick one. Okay, there we go. Never mind. And some of them fell. Yeah, some of them fell, okay. Anyways, the next review shall be... Whoa. Well, by the way, funny enough, the next classic review will be the first anniversary, the first anniversary of the AniMat's classic reviews. And with this one, we're definitely not going to be escaping the environmental message with this one. Especially not with this.